Hi guys. So I'm going to be doing a couple of videos on stamp layering using layering stamps. I'll be using stamps from different manufacturers. I have today will be on Stampin' Up. I also have kitchen sink stamps, the ton stamps, some Hero Art stamps. So we have a couple of different companies that do layering stamps. I have a love-hate relationship with layering stamps. I love layering stamps because they just look so beautiful. They really look popped and 3D and dimensional, and it gives you a lot of variety in making your cards. But I know a lot of stampers, I'm sure you guys can relate, get frustrated with layering stamps because sometimes it's hard to line them up. So I'm hoping to give some tips and tricks throughout a couple of these videos to show you how I line up or layer these stamps when I'm stamping with them. So for most of the videos, I will be using some kind of stamp tool like the Misti. So here I have the little mini Misti. If you don't have a stamp tool like this, there's many out on the market. There is the mini Misti, the regular Misti, the Tim Holtz tool. Tim Holtz is a smaller tool. There is now the Stamparatus from Stampin' Up. So there are a number of different places that you can make your own, and you can even watch DIY videos on making one from a plastic stamp case. So there's a lot of options out there versus just using regular stamping acrylic blocks. And to be honest with you, it's easier to do it with some kind of a alignment tool like this, a stamping tool, versus doing the blocks. So tip number one is, if you want to get into the layering stamps, try using or even borrowing someone's stamping tool before you invest in one to see if that's something you want to do. Okay, the other items I have out for today's video is my little stamp chamois cleaner, which I love. We're going to be using this Painted Harvest set from Stampin' Up. It's a nice fall set, and you have some sunflowers, you have some little acorns, and of course some leaves and some cute sentiments. Your kindness means so much more than you will ever know. I am thankful for you. Gather together and give thanks. So we're going to make some cute sunflowers with this set. And then if you wanted to, I'm not going to put the whole card together today, but when I made this one, I stamped the background. I know it's hard to see, but the actual card itself in the Stampin' Up! Hardwood background stamp. So I will link all of these items. I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I would love to have your business. If you have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, feel free to go through them. But all the items I'll be using today are Stampin' Up! Other than the Misti. Stampin' Up! Does have their own stamp positioning tool called the Stamparatus. If you want to look into that, I will provide a link to that as well. So we're going to get started. I have some very vanilla card bases cut into A2 size cards, and then I have a panel cut out for our main stamping panel. And the Painted Harvest set is a photopolymer set. It does come in the normal stamping case. I moved mine to a little storage bag. So first tip was trying to use some kind of stamp positioner tool. Second step is to have a scrap piece of acetate. If you don't have a scrap piece of acetate, the stamps come on acetate, so you can just pull this extra piece out and use that. But we're going to start stamping out here. So I'm just going to line this into the corners of my Misti so it doesn't move. And we're actually going to turn it this way because I want all of my images in the corner here, so you can see on the card. It's that time of year, guys. I went to Dunkin' Donuts this morning and pumpkin spice latte is back. Woohoo! All right, so my next tip is you don't have to follow the order that's on there. A lot of these layered stamps, the companies do provide some tips and tricks of their own. So for instance, Stampin' Up! Puts these little like triangle or half, hat little marks there. So what these marks do is they tell you generally what direction the flower should be in to line it up correctly. A lot of other ones put number 1, 2, 3 to tell you what order to stamp them in. I generally like to do lightest to darkest. Sometimes you got to do it in a different order, and I will go into that in more detail as we get into more layered stamps. But you don't have to go 1, 2, 3. You can go 3, 2, 1. You can go 2, 1, 3. Whatever you want to do to make it easier on yourself. There's no rule when it comes to your creativity and stamping. So if it makes it easier for you to do it in different order, then do it in a different order. So I am actually going to start here with the center. Now let's go with the, I guess we'll go with the inside layer. So that would be this little stamp here. This is the outside layer, which is the lightest color. This is going to be our middle color of the sunflower. Now you can see, here's another tip. I have marked my stamps with permanent marker based on where the tick marks are on the plastic. So you can see the tick mark is there. That came from Stampin' Up. I took a little permanent marker and just mark the corner of my stamps based on what their guides are so that I have an idea. Okay, that's the direction it should go in. So I'm going to start with this guy and just kind of put it in the corner there. And I am going to be using Stampin' Up! Inks, and since we are using a little bit darker color for the flower today, we're going to be using Pineapple Punch and Crushed Curry. So we're going to start with the Crushed Curry. Just going to ink up our stamp. Another reason I like using a repositionable tool like this, because there's some ink I got on the stamp block. That's not going to transfer to my image. It's just going to be there. I'm just going to take a microfiber towel and wipe that down. Since we're going to be doing multiple stamping, I'm not going to do a full cleaning of my stamps at this moment. I'm just going to be doing the basics. So now I want to move this image, and it's okay if they overlap. I'm going to just move it up a little bit. And I'm just mentally remembering that I have my tick mark over to the right. So it was down here before. Now I'm going to have it over to the right here, like a 90-degree angle. And this stamp is designed to have almost a watercolored look. That's why it says painted. And there, again, you can see that I got ink on the side. If you're not comfortable with that, just take a wet wipe or a microfiber cloth and just wipe that off. So again, we're going to close the little door. Stamp that down. And again, just wipe the stamp off before we reposition it again. Now what you can do is if you have multiple Misties, some of us do, you can leave the layer 1 stamps in one position and then use the other Misti to go with another stamp set. Alright, all I'm going to do here is just move my paper up a little bit. So there's a little bit of a gap down here, just so I can have this flower hanging off the edge. And this time I'm going to turn the position so that the tick mark is over to the left. So I have this one down in the corner, this one to the right, and this one to the left. And because they're this painted or watercolored look, it doesn't have to be perfect. So if you don't line it up perfectly, no one's honestly going to notice. It's going to be fine. Okay, so we're pretty much done with this one. I just sprayed a little cleaner on there and just wiping them down. So now we are going to open up our new Pineapple Punch, which is a brighter yellow, and I think it looks really good against the crushed curry. And we are going to go in with our larger stamp image, and I just want to make sure that I have this lined up correctly. Yes, okay. So again, on the packaging, there is a small tick mark here. So again, I've marked my stamp with a permanent marker that just says, okay, put it in that direction. So all we're going to do is just kind of look down. Now for this stamp set, there is an alignment. So right here on the flower where it comes in, there's a part on the inside of this circle that comes in. So I'm going to line that up. You could also take your marker. Again, let me just grab a permanent marker here. So this is just a Copic marker. And I'm just going to mark on the top of that I want to follow these guidelines. So if I follow not only the tick mark in terms of direction, but also those edges of the flower line up with the plastic. I'm sorry, line up with the first layer lines up with the second layer in just those areas. So the other areas don't really matter. And I'm trying to do this without sticking my head into the camera there. Oops, I didn't get enough ink on there. There we go. And you can see how beautifully that stamped out, okay? Now, I'm just going to wipe it and move it over. Now you can see some of that transferred over to the Misti door. That's fine. We can just wipe it down. If you have a little rubbing alcohol, that'll take it down, take it off too. Once you learn your stamps, you'll learn the positioning of them and you won't have to mark them. But when they're new, I mark them so that I know how to line them up. So on this one, we had that more at a 90-degree angle. Again, I'm just trying to line up those little ridge. And the last one, we had it all the way over, pointing to the left. Alright, now on here, I don't think I inked it enough on this one side here. So I'm just going to put a little more ink in there. And again, it helps when you have a stamp positioning tool because I know that I haven't moved my stamp. And I can get that little extra ink on there. There we go. Just going to put that color away. Alright, we're going to clean up our stamp quick. Just spray a little spritz on there, wipe it down. Okay, so you can see that's coming out pretty nicely. So now we're going to do the centers. And the center on this is just one layer. It's just this little circle. And it also lines up pretty easily. It's kind of weird shaped, but again, I marked my stamp. So I'm going to start all the way over here on the right. And you will actually see that it lines up perfectly the ridges on that circle with that inner layer. So these ridges here line up with that circle very nicely. And we're just going to use soft suede brown ink for that. And because this stamp set has that kind of painted watercolor look, it automatically gives it dimension because it's dark on the outside and light on the inside. So I could have moved this over a little bit over to the left a little. But again, it has that watercolory look, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Try that again. This is a really forgiving layered stamp set too. If you're off, really no one's going to notice. Okay, so that's all for the center. While I have the brown out, I am going to take the 3 little dots, or sorry, 5 little dots, and I'm just going to take a mini stamp block and just stamp that in, and just in random places, put those little dots down. Okay. And also, while I have the brown ink out, actually we can take our stamped panel out of here now. We're going to take the little tops of the acorns, same dark brown ink, just going to stamp out where I might want some of those acorns. I'm going to put one over here so that it goes next to the sentiment. Use my little stamp shammy to clean off my stamp and my block. And then we're going to go to crumb cake ink, which is a little bit lighter brown. And we're going to grab the little bottom of the acorn. And because these are photopolymer, you just need to look through the stamp block and stamp it down. There we go. So we have a darker top and a lighter bottom of our acorn. So that looks good there. So we are almost done. We just need to add the leaves. So we're just going to grab some green inks here. And I'm going to start with the more solid layer. So this is a 2-layer. Again, there's a solid layer and a top layer. And I'm going to start with the one that has the 3 leaves because there's 2 different types of leaves on here. And for the bottom layer, I always do the lighter color. So this is the new Granny Apple Green. This is a really bright green. I love this color. So here I'm just kind of stamping off. I'm just going to put those leaves in, and again, it has that painted look, so it doesn't have to be perfect. That's all we're going to do for that. And then we're going to grab the top layer of the leaf, which is the more designed leaf, has a little bit more veining and things like that to leaf. And then this is going to be old olive green. So just stamping that in right over the leaves. If you think it's too dark, you can stamp it off. Yeah, I think it looks better stamped off. Here we go for that. And if you wanted to add even more greenery, there is a longer piece. I'm just going to use the top layer on that, stamp that off twice, and just kind of fill in the background with it. Oops, there we go. Just so it's kind of a shadow in the background. We don't really want it to be too prominent, just kind of frames off the top there. And then I'm going to go in with the bottom one, more solid layer, and go in with the granny green. Granny apple green, and again stamp that layer off, line it up, just a quick little shadow leaf there. So we have some of those leaves, but they're not super green and overly taking over our little card panel. And then just whichever sentiment you want. I think I'm going to use the same sentiment. I am thankful for you. And go back in with the soft suede. Nice dark brown there. Stamp that next to our acorn. And we are done. And then all you have to do is glue that down to your panel. And you have a very easy card. And like I said, this is a very easy set if you are just starting out with layered images. Even if you didn't have a Misti tool and you wanted to stamp these out with a regular block, once you have those stamps marked on how they line up, you'll be able to line it up. And this is a very forgiving set, once again, because it is almost that watercolored look. Now for our final card, all I did was I took a panel that was a little larger. So your stamp panel, if it's 5 by 3 3/4, the next panel up is a quarter larger, so it's 5 1/4 by 4, and then the card panel is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. So I started off with the actual card panel itself and stamped that in the hardwood on the card base, and then I had the larger panel, and all I did, you can see some of that greenery there, is I took some of the leaves and just stamped around the edges for the leaves and made that my matting layer, and then the top layer is what we stamped out today. If you have any questions about how I created this card or any of the items that I use, don't hesitate to comment down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I will link all of these items down below to my Stampin' Up store. And again, I'd be very thankful for you if you would order any of these Stampin' Up items from me. And again, I will also link the Stamparatus. Again, I don't have one just because I already have 2 Mistis and the Tim Holtz tool, so I did not invest in a Stamparatus. But if you don't have some kind of a stamp positioning tool, the Stamparatus does look like a great tool because it actually gives you 2 doors. You have a door on the side and a door at the top, so you can do multiple layers of stamping, and they do lift right out. There's many YouTube videos you can watch on using the Stamparatus. Once again, thanks for watching, guys, and keep on stamping. Bye.